The Exile and Silent Rise. The Grand Chamber of the Galactic Union fell silent as the final vote was tallied. High Counselor Zin Terra, her crystalline exoskeleton gleaming under the chamber's lights, rose slowly to her full 3-meter height. "The decision is made," she announced, her translator converting her harmonic speech patterns into standard galactic common. "By a vote of 17-3, the species known as humans are hereby declared incompatible with galactic society. The exile protocols will commence immediately." Commander Ilara Chen stood at attention, the sole human representative permitted to witness the proceedings. Her face remained impassive, though her knuckles whitened as she gripped her ceremonial sword, a symbol of Earth's military that would soon be confined to history books across the galaxy. "You fear what you don't understand," she said quietly, her words cutting through the murmurs of the chamber. "Humanity isn't a threat. We're explorers, innovators." High Counselor Zin Terra's compound eyes fixed on Ilara. "Your species expanded to 37 systems in less than 2 centuries. You've modified your genetics, created artificial intelligences beyond safety protocols, and your diplomatic corps regularly ignores Union conventions. Your unpredictability makes you dangerous." The Shrike delegate, a predatory avian whose species had seconded the motion for exile, chirped in agreement. 3 territorial disputes in as many decades. Humans don't respect boundaries. Ilara wanted to argue that those disputes had been misunderstandings, cultural differences that could have been resolved with patience, but the decision was made. The Union, with its 500 member species and control over 80% of the charted galaxy, had spoken. "You have 1 standard year to withdraw all human presence from Union space," Zin Terra continued. "Your colonies will be dismantled, your outposts decommissioned. Earth and its immediate system will remain yours, but any human vessel detected beyond the heliopause after the deadline will be considered hostile and destroyed." As she left the chamber, Ilara passed Admiral Ketlon of the Centauri delegation, one of the 3 votes against exile. The Admiral's 4 eyes blinked in sympathy. "They will regret this," Ketlon whispered. "Mark my words, Commander." Ilara nodded slightly. "Perhaps, but not as much as they fear they would regret keeping us." The exodus was painful to watch. For 11 months, the great ships of humanity's fleets carried millions back to Earth and the handful of terraformed planets within the Sol system. Mining operations were abandoned, research stations dismantled, a civilization that had stretched across dozens of light years compressed into a single system. On the final day before the deadline, Ilara stood on the observation deck of the last transport ship leaving Proxima Centauri, humanity's first extrasolar colony. Below, automated demolition drones were already beginning to disassemble the empty city of New Santiago. "This isn't the end," she said to no one in particular. "This is a beginning." When the ship's captain raised an eyebrow questioningly, she smiled thinly. "Just thinking out loud, Captain Reyes." What became known as the Silent Years began on Earth, not with despair, but with purpose, while the public faces of human government appeared to accept their fate with dignified resignation. Deep beneath the Mariana Trench, in hollowed-out asteroids, and in secret facilities on Mars, humanity planned. 10 years after the exile, Dr. Sanjay Malik stood before the Shadow Council, the covert leadership group formed from Earth's most brilliant scientists, engineers, and strategists. Standard fold space technology relies on dimensional warping that creates ripples detectable by Union monitoring stations, he explained, gesturing to the complex equations hovering in the holographic display. But our new drive doesn't fold space. It slides between dimensional layers, leaving no trace. Admiral Wade, the former head of Earth's Space Forces, leaned forward. "You're certain it can't be detected?" "We've tested it 27 times in the Kuiper Belt," Sanjay replied. The Union observation post on Pluto's moon, Charon, didn't register a thing. "As far as their sensors are concerned, we never left Earth orbit." This breakthrough was the first of many. While Union observers watched a humanity seemingly focused on internal development, rebuilding their homeworld, advancing medicine, and creating art, they missed the hidden revolution occurring in parallel. The Shadow Fleet took shape slowly and carefully. Ships with hulls made of metamaterials that absorbed rather than reflected sensor suites, engines that left no radiation signature, weapons developed without testing that might draw attention. Commander Chen, now director of the Ascension Project, stood before the first completed vessel of the fleet. The Nightshade was smaller than traditional military ships, sleek and angular. Its surface a deep matte black that seemed to swallow light. With this ship, she told the assembled engineers, we reclaim the stars. The first mission beyond the heliopause was a knife's edge of tension. Captain Maya Rodriguez guided the Nightshade past the Union monitoring stations with agonizing precision. No one spoke on the bridge as they held position just kilometers from a Union patrol vessel, completely invisible to its sensors. When they were safely beyond Union space, Maya finally relaxed. Set course for Target Alpha, she ordered. Target Alpha was a star system 40 light-years from Earth, carefully selected because it lay outside regular Union patrol routes. There, humanity established haven, the first colony of what would become known as the Shadow Empire. The nebula was a stroke of fortune that no human scientist could have predicted. Discovered by the exploration vessel Phantom, the dense cloud of gas and dust hid not one but 7 habitable worlds, and contained rare mineral deposits that would fuel humanity's silent expansion. The radiation from the nebula's core scrambles long-range sensors, reported Dr. Elena Novak, the Phantom's science officer. Even if a Union ship came within a light-year, they'd see nothing but cosmic noise. Director Chen, now in her 60s but still sharp-eyed and commanding, named it the Phoenix Nebula. From these ashes, she said during the commissioning of the first orbital platform, humanity will rise again. Over the next 50 years, as the Union continued to believe humans were quietly accepting their confinement, the Shadow Empire grew. 23 colony worlds. Massive shipyards hidden in asteroid fields. Mining operations extracting resources from uninhabited systems. A network of passive sensors that gave humans complete awareness of Union ship movements without revealing their own presence. But perhaps most significant was the development of Silence Protocol, a system of technology that could remotely disable Union ships and installations without leaving evidence of interference. It began as a defensive measure, a way to protect shadow colonies if discovered, but soon became something more. Admiral Takashi Yamamoto, commander of the Shadow Fleet's 6th Division, described it best during a strategy session with the now elderly Director Chen. We've become ghosts, he said, moving through the galaxy unseen. But soon, we will need to decide, do ghosts remain forever silent, or do they eventually reveal themselves to haunt those who wronged them? Chen looked out the viewport at the massive shipyard stretching through the darkness of space, where hundreds of vessels were under construction. The combined might of humanity's hidden fleets now outmatched the Union's border forces. Not yet, she said finally. We wait until we're ready to reveal not just our presence, but our power. The Union exiled us because they feared what we might become. Let's show them they were right to be afraid. As the first century of exile drew to a close, humanity had built an empire in darkness. Unbeknownst to the Galactic Union, humans now traveled their trade routes, visited their worlds disguised as other species, and silently watched as the mighty civilization that had cast them out began to face growing challenges from within. The stage was set for humanity's return, not as supplicants begging for readmission, but as a power that had transformed exile into strength. A shadow empire ready to step into the light. The return and revelation. Union Station. Gamma 9 orbited the gas giant Torvis IV, its massive ring structure housing 5,000 personnel responsible for monitoring this sector of Union space. Captain Trelox of the Union Security Force paced the length of the command center, his 4 arms clasped behind his back, all 3 of his eyes fixed on the central display. That's the 6th outpost this month, he said, mandibles clicking in agitation. Complete systems failure. No warning, no explanation. His executive officer, a methane-breathing Volturian named Hirik, floated in her containment suit beside him. The engineers report no evidence of attack or sabotage. Everything just stopped working. Trellox's species, the insectoid Mathari, were renowned for their analytical abilities. He'd spent 20 years in Union service, risen quickly through the ranks, and prided himself on finding patterns others missed. But this phenomenon defied explanation. "It's spreading," he said finally. "The first incidents were at the outer territories. Now they're occurring deeper in Union space." What Trellox couldn't know was that he was witnessing the first phase of Operation Daybreak, the Shadow Empire's carefully orchestrated revelation of power. On Novaterra, the hidden capital world of humanity's empire, Admiral Darian Walker stood before the Strategic Command Council. At 45, Walker had been born in exile, raised on stories of Earth's humiliation, and trained since childhood for leadership. The holographic display before him showed real-time data from across Union space. "Silence protocol is functioning exactly as designed," he reported. "Union forces are scrambling to understand the technology failures. Their communication networks are saturated with confusion." Counselor Amara Chen, great-granddaughter of Director Ilara Chen, nodded in approval. "The Xorian Alliance confirms their systems are prepared for Phase 2. The Xorians had been humanity's most unexpected ally. Discovered by a Shadow Scout ship 15 years earlier, they were a silicon-based species exiled from the Union centuries before humans for their dangerous ability to interface directly with technology. Where humans had built a hidden empire of planets and ships, the Xorians had evolved into living networks, their consciousness distributed across vast server arrays in the uncharted regions beyond Union space. They still don't suspect human involvement," asked Counselor Marcus Santos, head of intelligence. Walker shook his head. "They have no reason to. As far as the Union is concerned, we're still confined to Sol System, developing better hydroponics and writing poetry." The council chamber rippled with laughter. The idea of humanity's silent rise to power had long since become part of their cultural mythology. Children on Novaterra learned about the Great Deception alongside mathematics and sciences. "It's time for the next phase," Walker continued. "The Ghost Squadron is in position. Near the border between Union space and the uncharted regions, Commander Sophia Lynn guided her ship, the Wraith, through the darkness. The vessel was the most advanced in the human fleet, a prototype incorporating both human stealth technology and Xorian bioelectronics. "All systems nominal," reported her first officer, Lieutenant Commander Jackson. "Union border station is 12,000 kilometers to starboard." Sophia took a deep breath. After a century of hiding, this mission would change everything. Initiate controlled malfunction. The Wraith's stealth systems began a carefully orchestrated failure. Not enough to endanger the ship, but sufficient to make it visible to Union sensors. The first confirmed human vessel beyond Sol System in 150 years. On Union Border Station Epsilon 3, Alert Officer Krasnar stared at his console in disbelief. "Captain, unidentified vessel detected on bearing 147. Captain Viral, a reptilian saurid, moved quickly to the central platform. "Classification: unknown, sir," Krasnar replied. "Wait. Energy signature analysis complete. Sir, it's human." For a moment, the command center was silent. Then Viral snapped back to training. "Intercept course. Alert Union Command. This is a violation of the Exile protocols." 3 Union cruisers converged on the Wraith's position, weapons charged. Commander Lin made no attempt to evade. "Attention human vessel," came the transmission from the lead cruiser. "You are in violation of Union law. Power down immediately and prepare to be boarded." Sophia allowed herself a small smile before responding. "This is Commander Sophia Lin of the human vessel Wraith. We will comply." The boarding party found a ship unlike anything in Union records. The technology was decades beyond what humans should have achieved in isolation. The crew, just 20 personnel, surrendered without resistance. Captain Viral personally led the inspection team. "How did you get here?" he demanded. The monitoring stations around Sol system detected no departure. Commander Lin merely smiled. "Perhaps you should ask how many more of us are out here." The captured Wraith was taken to the Union's highest security research facility orbiting the capital world of Concordia. For 3 days, scientists and military analysts swarmed over the vessel, growing increasingly disturbed by what they found. "The propulsion system is completely unknown to us," reported Chief Scientist Vezinar to the hastily assembled Union Security Council. "Their stealth technology renders them effectively invisible to our sensors. And most concerning, we found evidence that this ship has visited dozens of systems throughout Union space." High Counselor Trollvon, who had replaced Zintera decades earlier, looked grave. "Are you suggesting humans have been violating exile protocols for some time?" "I believe, Counselor," replied Vezinar carefully, "that they may never have truly observed them at all." The revelation sent shockwaves through Union leadership. Emergency sessions were called. The Sol system monitoring stations reported everything normal. Earth was still there, still seemingly contained. Yet the evidence suggested humans had somehow built ships capable of moving undetected through Union space. Then came the second phase of Operation Daybreak. Across Union space, on precisely 37 worlds, the same number of systems humans had colonized before exile. Massive holographic projections appeared simultaneously. In each planetary capital, in orbit around major stations, the image of Admiral Darian Walker materialized, 20 meters tall, dressed in the formal uniform of the Shadow Fleet. "People of the Galactic Union," he began, his voice calm and measured. 150 years ago, you cast humanity out from your society. You declared us dangerous, unpredictable, incompatible with your vision of civilization. You confined us to our home system and believed we would wither in isolation. On Concordia, the Union Council watched in stunned silence. "You were wrong," Walker continued. "While you watched our homeworld and saw what we wanted you to see, humanity expanded. We built. We grew. We forged an empire in the shadows of your own." The hologram shifted to show images of Novaterra, of massive shipyards, of human cities spanning worlds the Union had never charted. Today, the Shadow Empire controls 83 star systems. Our technology has advanced beyond anything you might imagine. Our fleet is larger than your border forces, and yet we have never once attacked a Union world or vessel. Whispers of panic spread through the council chamber. "We could have struck without warning," Walker said, his voice hardening slightly. "We could have emerged from exile with vengeance in our hearts. Instead, we come with an offer." The hologram returned to Walker's image. "The exile ends today, not because we beg for readmission, but because we choose to rejoin galactic society. As equals, not supplicants. As a power you must respect, not a species you can dismiss." In that moment, as if to emphasize his words, every Union defense system across 30 systems simultaneously deactivated for precisely 10 seconds before restarting. "That was silence protocol," Walker explained calmly. "A demonstration, not an attack. Had we wished conflict, your defenses would remain dormant." On Novaterra, Walker watched as the message was delivered across Union space. Beside him stood Ambassador Xirtal of the Xorians, their crystalline form shimmering with internal light. "They will fear you now." Xirtal's voice resonated in Walker's mind through their neural interface. "Fear is not our goal," Walker replied. "Recognition is. Respect is." The Union Council debated for 3 days. Reports flooded in of human outposts suddenly appearing where none had been detected before. Shadow bases deactivating their stealth systems in a coordinated revelation. Union intelligence was in disarray, faced with the reality that their surveillance had been completely circumvented for over a century. Finally, High Counselor Trollvon authorized a diplomatic mission to coordinates provided by Admiral Walker. The location of Novaterra itself. The Union diplomatic vessel Concord emerged from fold space at the edge of a star system that had never appeared on any Union chart. Before them hung a blue-green world reminiscent of Earth, but larger, its orbit dotted with massive space stations. A fleet of ships, human ships, maintained a respectful distance. Ambassador Kellenar of the Union Diplomatic Corps stood on the Concorde's bridge, watching as they were escorted toward the planet. "So much for the primitive humans," he murmured. The reception hall in Novaterra's capital city of Phoenix was vast, its architecture combining elements of Earth traditions with entirely new forms. Admiral Walker, now serving as interim chancellor of the Shadow Empire, awaited the Union delegation. "Welcome to Novaterra," he greeted Ambassador Kellenar. "The heart of a civilization born in exile." Kellenar's translator conveyed his response. "Chancellor Walker, the Union Council has authorized me to discuss terms." Walker smiled. "Not terms, Ambassador. A new relationship. The age of shadows is over. Humanity steps into the light, not as the dangerous species you once feared, but as the powerful ally you never knew you needed." As negotiations began, observers noted something remarkable. The humans showed no bitterness, no desire for reparations or revenge. They sought only recognition, the lifting of exile protocols, and the establishment of formal diplomatic relations. "You could demand more," Kellenar observed during a private moment with Walker. "Your position is strong." Walker looked out across the city skyline, where the lights of Phoenix glittered against the gathering dusk. "Exile taught humanity patience, Ambassador. It taught us to build rather than destroy. We don't want concessions or territory. We want a future where our children don't have to hide their brilliance." The revelation, as it came to be known in galactic histories, marked a turning point. The Union, faced with the reality of a human civilization far more advanced and expansive than they had imagined possible, had no choice but to acknowledge their mistake. 1 year later, Admiral Walker, now formally elected as Chancellor, stood again before the Grand Chamber of the Galactic Union. This time, not as a witness to exile, but as the representative of the newest member state. The Shadow Empire joins the Galactic Union, not in submission, but in partnership, he declared. "What began in darkness now continues in light." As he spoke, across human worlds and Union planets alike, citizens watched the historic moment. Among them was Ilara Chen, now 192 years old, kept alive by medical technologies developed in exile. From her home on Novaterra, she smiled as she watched humanity's return. The exile had ended. The silence was broken, and the galaxy would never be the same.